So our next question would be, when we study war as a part of history, wars are always indicative of the strength, stature, and power of the two nations involved, victory and loss. However, the general public who lived the war at that particular moment is in constant fear of losing their lives and livelihoods, and the soldiers fighting have only one goal in their mind. But what the family of a soldier goes through back home must be extremely immense. So, what is the storm that keeps on swirling in their minds and their hearts, the hearts of the families, and how do they derive strength when the soldiers are at the war field or are at any kind of operations? And also at that time, during the Kargil and before that, the communication was also not that great. So, how did you and the fellow families derived strength from that and courage?
Okay. So it's a good question. So let me tell you two ways to look at it. One, when you join forces, so it is not about the mental strength of the soldier only who's joining the forces. It is also about the mental strength of the family to let the kid go to join the forces. Right? It is very important that we always talk of a soldier going and fighting out a war. So, and for fighting a war, you have not to be physically strong. You're supposed to be mentally strong. Is my view. And similarly, the courage of the mother to let the kid go. And incidentally, out of two of us, I attempted the SSB thrice. I was not recommended by the board because my mother was willing to let both of us go into the forces. I'll be very honest. And to be honest, it is also a dream what a kid wants to achieve. So fortunately for me and Vikram, our parents were always very, very, pushy in terms of that whatever you wish to do in life, do it, but ensure that you make it big. My dad was very, very clear. My dad was a teacher, my mom was a teacher. And I think it also comes from the background that both parents being teachers, I think those cultural values and the values, towards the society were imbibed in both of us right from our early childhood. And no wonder we kept on watching them. I shared with you that we used to watch that serial PVC. Otherwise, I really wonder that how many people would really watch that kind of a serial. Number one. Dad, mom used to share a lot of stories about Shivaji and Maharani Lakshmi Bai. We were kids and we were identical twins. My mom was my first teacher for us, until we got into class 6th and 7th. And we used to get really, we really used to get a lot of beating also because we both were very nasty kids, so those I think traits were inbuilt by parents right from the early childhood. My dad has always been a disciple of Lord Krishna and my mother has always been a disciple of Lord Rama. And that's the reason not many people know, but my mom had named us Love and Kush. In our fraternity, in our personal fraternity, very less number of people knows that we're Vikram and Vishal. Of course, Vikram went on to become a PVC and a Sher Shah. So people got to know. But otherwise, my mom always used to say that I've been blessed with a twin, because Lord Rama had named his sons Love and Kush. So I think those values were inbuilt into us. And coming down to the second point, while those values are inbuilt, but it is also a difficult movement when you get that news. I won't say that you're mentally prepared for such kind of a loss because I might sound and I might talk with a lot of pride, but let me tell you honestly, the loss, which I have, the void which I have in my life is very, very deep, very, very deep. And there's a lot of time when I really get emotional talking about him, but end of the day, you can't do a public display of emotions. I'll be very candid with you, but there's a lot of times I really cry a lot because I miss him. We were identical twins. He was elder to me just by 14 minutes and we had a lovely childhood of, pranks, laughters, masti, whatever we used to do, every shitty stuff, in our life. And, but this loss came at a very heavy price. We never wondered that we would lose him. But end of the day, I think somewhere, you end up believing that, somebody had to carry forward his legacy. And I always end up believing that, when I attempted my SSB thrice, I couldn't make it. And in one of the conversation with one of a very senior army officer, he asked me, Vishal, you never thought of joining army? And, I gave him a reply, sir, the army never wanted a second Batra, one was enough for the enemy. Right. So I believe that I think time is the great healer. You move on. And regarding how the strength goes, I think that's a lovely question. So to me, the strength is what? I still believe, while it has been 22 years when we lost Vikram, right? But to me, it seems like it happened yesterday because there's hardly been any day in the last 22 years when somebody would not have talked about him or somebody would not have spoken about him. And could be that also naturally comes with I've been an identical sibling to him. I see so many people who walk across to me. I meet so many people. Something or the other keeps on coming where we're talking about him. So for us, the strength is that Vikram has become immortal. He continues to live. It's only that his physical presence is not there. It haunts. But I believe he continues to inspire us as he's been inspiring a lot of youth in India. That's the way I look at it as of now.
Definitely. That's why we say that it's not just the soldier who goes to war and the operations, but it is also the family behind it. Because when they get into the forces, it is the trauma and the joy both are shared by the
Yes,
family equally.
yes, yes, absolutely, yes.
So moving further, and also drawing from what you just said, you know that after Captain Batra was martyred and he came back wrapped in tricolor. While definitely there is immense pride stemming from his sacrifice, someone laying down their life for their nation, there is also grief of losing a part of you, and it's and you know you're kind of torn between pride and sorrow, pride and grief. So, what are your views regarding that? How do you feel?
I am bang on. I am agreement with you. See, it's a sense of pride because you made the country proud, you made the army proud, you made the battalion proud, and you made the family proud. And pride also because, as I mentioned, I wanted to join the forces. Army never wanted me. I'm a Fauji. I always call myself a Fauji without a combat or without a olive green. But I've been following the principles of the Forge right from my own corporate world as an individual human being. So that's a sense of pride. The sense of pride is that I continue to carry forward his legacy because what he has done, not many people would do it at the age of 24. And for me, it is not about Vikram. It is about the sacrifice of every Indian soldier, those 527 soldiers who lost their life in the Kargil war, because it doesn't make a difference whether you are a sung hero or you are an unsung hero. When you lose a life, the sacrifice of every soldier is the same. So I think the sense of pride is that I am carrying forward his legacy. And I think I'm living my army life through him. The reason is because I do a lot at my personal level for the forces, and I get a lot of inner satisfaction with respect to that. With respect to the sorrow, as I mentioned, yes, at times it is very, very heart-wrenching because at times I miss him a lot because we always had dreamt of a beautiful life together that we both will join forces when he becomes a colonel or he becomes a brigadier, because of course I had, since I couldn't make it and I'd got into the private sector. So I miss all those things. And, I really sometimes feel that, I wish I had a companion because since we both were twins, I think he was the best confidante I had in my life. Because a lot of things, there's a lot of, I think, camaraderie between two brothers when you're identical siblings, right? And we were identical twins. We were not even fraternal. So that is something which really haunts me a lot of times. But to be honest with you, when I step out of my home, I make it a point, I touch his feet every day. I salute him daily. In my office where I'm sitting right now, his big portrait is right in front of me here, exactly on the, and in the front of my laptop. I make it a point when I enter my office, I seek his blessings, and I think that's moving me on in my life. So sorrow is there. The deepest sorrow I have is only that his physical presence is not there with me. But whatever I have achieved in my life in private sector, I think I have the God's blessing. I've been doing, very good in my own career. And I think it is, I always believe, and I've been believing it right from the last 22 years, that Vikram is somewhere who's watching me. So generally I try to keep myself happy, not get too much gloomy about it. But yes, I would be lying if I say that I don't cry. I really cry a lot at times, but I cry in isolation when I miss him. When I miss him a lot. And it happens quite a large number of times. And every time you have to repeat the, candidly sharing with you, every time, somebody asks me, Vishal, tell me now, narrate the story. So every time, the sorrow is that every time I have to live the same moments, of having lost him physically for last 22 years. So that's a bit of a sorrow, which at times pains you a lot inside your heart.
Definitely, sir. And thank you so much because you answered this question really, really very beautifully. And we are extremely thankful to you that you are there to carry on his legacy and to make each and everyone familiar with his childhood stories and how Vikram Batra sir was. We are extremely thankful for that. Um, Digressing from the topic a little bit, we would like to ask you about what are your views on the peace process between India and Pakistan? Do you feel that an everlasting peace is ever possible between both the nations? And how do you, as family of a brave heart who sacrificed their life in a conflict with a country which has been and sort of an enemy since independence? So how do you see the relationship of these two countries?
Okay, I will answer it in a very short brief. First of all, nobody wants a war. Let me tell you, if you go and ask a Fauji or ask the family of a Fauji, do you want a war? Nobody wants a war, and war is not the solution end of the day, right? It happened in 62, it happened in 65, it happened in 71, it happened in 99. You continue to see the insurgency. I only believe that Pakistan has to mend its ways. Reason is because if it doesn't happen, we'll keep on losing the officer. We'll keep on losing the officers, which is not a good picture. And if you look at what happened in the Balakot strike, my only view is that if it happens again, I think India should teach them a lesson once again, and it should be once and for all. Otherwise, my personal view is that since nobody wants a war, it should be tried through the diplomatic ties where, I think either, and I don't think we would really need a third country intervention. It should be a straight dialogue between India and Pakistan. But I think Pakistan, first of all, has to stop the infiltration of the terrorism, what they keep on doing primarily across the entire Indo-Pakistan border. I don't think it'll be a fair way for government of India to go and start talking unless we see a complete ceasefire. The ceasefire happens just for 2 months and again, then you're back to the shots. Right. So my personal view is, I don't be very diplomatically correct, but my honest feeling is that it should be done through a diplomatic ties only. Right. And it doesn't make a difference. Of course, it is a question of that who initiates first, whether it's the Pakistan government initiates or the Indian government. But the question is that, once beaten, twice shy. How many times you will really trust an enemy who has really stabbed you at the back time and again, time and again, time and again? I don't wish to answer it beyond that.
Yes, sir, we respect that, and thank you for sharing your opinion on this.